This story takes place when I was about 12 or 13, around 2005 or 2006 when MSN was really big. I met a girl in my grade who hung around my group of friends, but I'd only just met her. I'm going to call her Alice. She was a very overweight girl who got picked on a lot and apparently didn't have the best home life, so I tried to be nice to her even though she gave off a few red flags of not being the most stable person. So anyway, here's my story. It was a Friday after school and I was waiting for my bus to go to my dad's house for the weekend. My bus was one of the last to leave and Alice comes up and starts talking to me and asks if I want to hang out with her at her grandparents' house. I told her I was going to my dad's and my dad, myself, and my younger siblings were supposed to go see a movie that night. She's really insistent and I eventually say I have to check with my dad. I call him from the office and he surprisingly says yes, and tells me that he'll be at Alice's at, I'll say like 7:30 or something, to pick me up for the movie. We walk around town a little bit and then go to her house and she immediately goes to her laptop and signs into MSN with me sitting next to her. I ask her who some people on the list are because I recognize next to none of the people on it. She tells me she has a lot of friends online, which at the time I thought was super weird. Instantly a bunch of people start messaging her, and in particular one guy I'll just call James. I don't remember his real name. His personal message script says something to the effect of, "I love my sexy babe Alice, and I get even more weirded out." She says this guy is her boyfriend who's like 16, and she hasn't met him but apparently lives just a few hours away. She tells him she's hanging out with a friend and he says something like, "Oh, turn on your webcam, I want to see if I know her." I'm uncomfortable with it, but I didn't know her well enough to protest, so she turns it on. But he doesn't turn on his. He starts really creeping me out by saying things like, "Oh, your friend is as hot as you are. Ew," and telling me I look hot and should take off my sweater. He makes weird passes like, "We should make out" and stuff like that, and innuendo about a threesome which I didn't really understand at the time. I ask why he doesn't turn on his webcam and she says it's because he doesn't have one, and I start to get even more suspicious. I tell her I want to get off the computer and go hang out outside and play with her rabbit. She tells him we have to go and he starts getting really pissed off at her, and obviously manipulating her into staying on. I think he's a fucking creep, so I go outside alone and pet her rabbit in this little enclosure and she eventually comes outside. She tells me they got into a fight but made up and he's coming to finally visit her next Friday and wants us all to hang out, even though I never directly spoke to him and he isn't a good friend. So many red flags. I brush it off and we have an uneventful evening until my dad comes and picks me up. Sunday, when I get back to my mom's place, I go on MSN and I have a friend request from someone I don't know. I assume it's a friend from school. The email seems very mild. I assume it's a friend from school. The email seemed very middle school-esque, so I added it. As soon as I do, a window opens and says something like, "Hey sexy girl." I ask who it is and sure enough it's James. I say I have to go and just block him. Monday at school, Alice is talking to me at lunch and says he really liked me and he was coming Friday for sure and asks if we were still on for all hanging out. I make up some excuse about having to go to my dad's again on the bus and she drops it. I believe it was the following Friday our school went into lockdown. Basically, they lock everyone in their classrooms and we turn off the lights and can't leave until it comes over the PA that it's all clear. Everyone assumes it's a drill and we do work quietly at our desks and talk. The lockdown lasts most of the period before it's over. In between the next class, the vice principal grabs me outside of class and tells me to come with him to the office. I follow him and he doesn't talk until we get there, where the guidance counselor is sitting there with a female cop. I'm like, what the fuck? They just say they have a few things to ask me, but that I can call my parents if I want to. I have no idea what it is about and tell them no. The VP asks if I know Alice, and I say yes. He asks if I know a guy named James, and I say no, but Alice does. He tells me the guy wasn't really 16-year-old James, but a 40-some-year-old guy I'll say was Tom or some crap. I was freaked out as hell, but I told them I just knew he was supposed to meet her after school, and that was all, and they let me go. The cop just kinda sat there and took notes. I didn't know much about it for a while, but I pieced it together eventually through what Alice said about it and other kids who were at the front of the school when he showed up. Apparently the guy just showed up saying he was her uncle and it was an emergency. The receptionist in the office was suspicious and asked for proof as he wasn't on the list of emergency contacts, I think. And of course he didn't have any. She called the principal out and the guy was irate, demanding he send her down. He got even more angry and said, "Guinea Pigs with Hats knows who I am. She can tell you." This is why they briefly questioned me, or something to that effect. They refuse and ask him to leave. He won't, so they call the cops and lock down the school, and he just goes nuts in the office apparently. I'm really scared to think what could have happened to that girl. He knew what school she went to, and my best guess is he got impatient to do whatever to her. I don't think he was charged because he was clearly mentally unstable. Shortly after, I cut ties with Alice because she was into a lot of risky behaviors other than that. Creepy internet pedophile man? Let's not meet.